I wish you could have been with me a week ago. I boarded the Staten Island ferry in the New York harbor as the sun was setting in the sky. After pulling away from lower Manhattan and its majestic, towering buildings, we passed the Statue of Liberty, standing out there, surrounded by the bay in all her glory. In the words of Emma Lazarus that are affixed to her foundation, not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land, here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the wretched refuse of your teeming shores. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. My brother Derek and his wife, who's from Brazil, Laura, and we shared the ferry's starboard railing with people from many cultures and backgrounds, people who'd come from all over the world and all over the country on this summer evening to see the Statue of Liberty. We were a mosaic of humanity, the pink and orange of the setting sun gleaming off all of our cheeks the same as we swapped cameras and held poses with the grand lady behind us. We laughed and we were one. There she was, looking down on us, this sublime symbol of the land of the free, of a nation once thought, in the words of Walt Whitman, to be formed from all, with room for all. We, the ferry passengers, were a reflection of such a promise. People of all kinds from around the world, together in our joy and in our humanity. The architects of this nation had a vision. They set us on a mission as a country to be a light or a beacon for the world. The foundation for this light is articulated to be the promise of freedom and justice for all. It is a promise that we have yet to fully achieve, and at times it can feel like we are going backward. Yet it is still a compelling vision that motivates the best that is within us. Now, at the signing of the Declaration of Independence, Benjamin Franklin reminded his fellow signers, we must all hang together, or most assuredly we will all hang separately. In these sentiments, we find a formative principle of our democracy. United we stand, divided we fall. In a certain way, our country is more than just a nation. At its best, it's an orientation to hope that is rooted in a moral vision for humanity. What holds us all together is more than a common language, more than a religion, more than ethnicity, more than a shared cultural background. In fact, it's more than our land and its borders. It's more than laissez-faire capitalism. It's definitely not materialism, nor is it radical individualism. What Forest Church and others have referred to that binds us together as citizens of the United States is a creed of sorts, by which they do not mean a sectarian and religious creed, but rather a belief in the rights and dignity of every person for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As Church wrote in his book, The American Creed, that I just read from, truth cast in language that in turn spells out the truth for succeeding generations deserves to be called a creed. And the preamble of the Declaration of Independence is just such a statement. As he says, it distills a mission and it gives us a charge to future generations. Sure enough, over the years, we become a nation of people from every nation. And what holds us together across all of our differences is a core hope in the possibility of freedom as a governing principle that can uplift not just us, but all of humanity. What makes this freedom more than a license to individual gain is that it's rooted in a concept that's printed on our dollar bill. If you have one in your purse or your wallet, you might just pull it out. And look, it's printed right here on the back in the little circle with the eagle holding arrows in one of its talons and an olive branch, I believe, in the other. And in its beak, it has a ribbon. And on that ribbon, you find these words. It's the simplest articulation of the American creed. If you don't have one and your neighbor has one, just feel free to pass it down. Just be sure to give it back. Maybe you've put your last one into the collection plate, so you don't have one. So please share. But there it is. You might need your glasses. It's pretty small. And I do. I need some glasses to see it well. But it's a proclamation. It says, E pluribus unum. Thank you. Out of many, one. It's a proclamation of the American ideal of pluralism, unity, and diversity together. Unum, by itself, is a melting pot. It's merely assimilation where we lose our distinctions. Diversity by itself is merely a condition. It's just a reality. There are lots of differences and different people. However, pluralism is an ideal. Pluralism involves ethnic, religious, and other forms of uniqueness on the one hand, and social cohesion on the other. In such a community and a society, we create a unity with each other, not by blending out our distinctions, but by honoring them. There are some who feel passionately that our city and our nation ought to be united instead around a conservative Christian creed. Such people decry the notion of a religiously pluralistic nation because they reject the idea that there is more than one way to know God or to be religious. And it's not just in Tulsa, and it's not just in the Bible Belt. One of the moments in recent American history when we saw a powerful representation of our unity and diversity was after the tragic events of September 11th, 2001. People in New York and across the country came together to help each other and to honor our shared ideals. We even came together across our religious diversity at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C., and in services throughout the country, even here in Tulsa. But not everyone appreciated this kind of unity and diversity together. You may recall the Missouri Synod pastor who was defrocked because he said a prayer as part of an interfaith service at Shea Stadium in New York just days after the attack on the World Trade Center. He was a well-loved and highly respected Lutheran minister who had a popular radio show in New York. Now, as a minister with a public presence in the city, he felt the right thing to do after the attacks was to participate in this citywide service, bringing together the anguished people of New York. It was a service of healing and prayer that was meant to transcend doctrinal differences. It was meant to remind everyone of our common humanity in the face of tragedy. He paid a steep price for his participation. He lost his church, he lost his ordination, and he lost his radio program. The city lost a great voice of healing and hope as well. His denomination rejected him for his participation in this service. Now, in Tulsa, we too have religious voices articulating an exclusive faith and a narrow vision of the world and of God and of morality. All Souls and others in the interfaith community here in our city offer a very different witness and a very different worldview. President George W. Bush, in the days following the attacks on the World Trade Center, took time out to worship at an American Muslim mosque to model to our country and the world that we value religious pluralism and we honor our Muslim neighbors. 5 months later, in a speech at Tsinghua University in China, President Bush said, "In a free society, diversity is not disorder, debate is not strife, and dissent is not revolution." A free society trusts its citizens to seek greatness in themselves and their country. These are the guiding principles upon which our nation was founded, and President Bush was articulating them. He also acknowledged that the United States, quote, "has its share of problems, and we have our faults," he said. "We are on a long journey towards achieving our own ideals of equality and justice. Nonetheless, there's a reason our nation shines as a beacon of hope and opportunity," end quote. As Reverend Church explains, President Bush, like so many before him, was reciting the American creed, something that transcends partisan politics, something that stands at the root of what this nation stands for. Now, one thing that makes All Souls and other Unitarian Universalist congregations different in the American religious landscape is that we are not only a part of the religious diversity of this country, but we also try to embody the ideals of e pluribus unum within our churches as well. That means that we're not a church or a community that houses only people who have the same beliefs. Instead, we're a community that welcomes people with many beliefs to be a part. In that way, we are a microcosm of this nation, in that we embrace religious and theological pluralism within our walls. The painting in our foyer that helps to describe symbolically the values and the history of this church has the image of the Statue of Liberty on it. We too hold up a lamp to welcome people who come from the shores of many different religious backgrounds, and we welcome them. We ask all who come to accept and support our core values of freedom and justice for all and equality, but we do not ask them to assimilate their beliefs or their culture as they join this community. That's how we have members who are Jews and Christians and Buddhists and atheists and much more, and how we have members who combine various beliefs from various traditions and people who are trying to figure out what it is they believe or what it is they don't believe and why. Some are religious exiles fleeing unhospitable territory. Some are seekers looking for a new faith or a new church or a greater truth. Some are people who've discovered that the best hope for peace in the world and in the human heart will not come from trying to convert the world to all believe alike, but will require us to learn how to live and respect each other across our differences. In that way, this church, like this nation, represents a particular kind of hope for humanity. Out of many theologies and philosophies, we have created one community. Why is that important? Why would we want to do such a thing? It's not just because there are more and more families in this city and across this country of diverse religious backgrounds who are looking for a community where they can worship together, where they can raise their children together. But that's one thing that we do offer to many families. It's not just because our forefathers and foremothers of this tradition believed that we can find wisdom and truth in all of the world's great religions and in science and in philosophy and in nature. It is in part because our experience of life shows us that we are stronger together and we are weaker apart. But like in a democratic nation, a democratic church is not always easy. It holds out the promise of discovering truths about life and about ourselves that we might never, ever uncover when we're alone. How can such a community lead us to these discoveries? Think about it. Each one of us, each person, is limited by their own life experience and social location. Look at me. I'm middle class, Generation X, American, living in Tulsa, who's a cisgendered male, a heterosexual, who identifies as white. All of these factors have an effect on how I see and experience the world around me. How could they not? By myself and surrounded only by people like me, I have a limited vision of reality. But by being in a community and being able to listen to people of various backgrounds and histories and beliefs, I can learn from each person, and I do. For example, when I talk or when I preach a sermon, sometimes someone will come up to me afterward and they'll say things like, "Marlin, as someone who grew up in Oklahoma, I see the situation differently." Or as a person who grew up in a fundamentalist church, I think, or as an African American woman, or as a Native American man, my experience has been, as a police officer, or as a veteran, as a conservative, I see things differently. All of these perspectives, when people have the courage and the kindness to share them with me, help me to see beyond my own limited experience. Each one helps me understand a deeper and richer and fuller truth. It's something we can do for one another in this community. One time, I delivered a sermon, and I was talking about how life is difficult and how we need to be able to experience the difficulties of life without running away. I said something to the effect of, you can't just take Prozac to make you feel happy all the time. Someone came up to me after that service, and they explained that my comment about Prozac was hurtful and uninformed. That was kind, I thought, a way to frame it. That's when I first learned that Prozac doesn't make people happy, and that some people need it or similar medications to help balance some of their brain chemistry, to pull them out of a debilitating depression, or to maintain that balance to avoid going into a debilitating depression, or also it helps people with serious anxiety sometimes. So I can see then, after hearing that, how my flippant comment from the pulpit was not only ignorant, it made me look ridiculous, but it also furthered a common misunderstanding, and it perpetuated a stigma about using such drugs and about depression. Ever since that, I've been much more careful. I've even become an advocate for people with mental health challenges. Another time, I thought I was complimenting the members of Trinity Episcopal Church here in Tulsa and their outstanding ministry that they have to people who are homeless in this city. And I talked about how truly Christian I felt this community was. I tried to be descriptive, as I like to do, in my telling of the story. And I said something like, you can see a person in the pews there in a fur coat sitting next to a homeless person who might not have bathed in a week and smells like urine. Later, a woman who was a member of All Souls came up to me, and she told me that I should be careful when I talk about people who are homeless Because there are likely some people who are in the church who are or who have been homeless. This well-dressed, very thoughtful, very intelligent and kind woman went on to explain that she and her daughter had been homeless for much of the last 3 years. She was not homeless at the moment, but she knew that she could be again through a similar twist of fate and circumstances. She explained how it had happened and what it was like. And I came to see how painful it was for her to hear her minister speak the way I did about people who are homeless, using stereotypes and talking as if nobody in the room was or could have ever been homeless. It made her feel invisible. It made her feel unwelcome. It made her feel misunderstood. I've done it. I've done it to political conservatives. I've done it to transgender people. I've done it on issues of race to people of color as well as to white people. And every time somebody takes me aside and helps to explain from their perspective something that may be a blind spot for me, it's a great gift. And it's a great benefit to me and to our whole community. That's something that we can do for one another. It's made me a better person. It's made me a better minister. And it's important. We need one another, and diversity is a gift. It's a great gift. Some people would call it a gift from God. Now, if you're anything like me, you don't want to live in a cultural or socioeconomic bubble with people who mostly think and experience the world just like you do. There is a kind of comfort to that, but it's really not a source of great wisdom. And so I really don't think that humankind or individuals can advance in our understanding or advance in our movements for justice and a better world without being among people who are different from ourselves. It's not always comfortable, but what I've realized is that my discomforts and my disappointments in learning these kinds of lessons, it's pretty short-lived, really, and especially in comparison to the pain and disappointment felt by some of the people who feel unwelcomed or diminished in the world that we live in and in the society all around us. So I've decided I can handle some short-lived, minor discomfort, disappointment in myself or other things so that I can help to build a better world and maybe ease some of the pain and help some others in the world feel more love and feel more acceptance and to be in community together. Our country, our city, and our world is becoming more diverse, and we're either going to learn to live together as friends or perish separately as fools. The theological openness and the freedom and the pluralism of this church allows us to share in the bounty of rich theological debate and exploration. It's not always easy. It's not always comfortable. We make mistakes along the way. But if we can continue to succeed in coming together and growing wiser and more whole through sharing our differences, then maybe we'll help create and become an example for others in our city and in our nation. Lord knows we need more models of understanding and cooperation. So every time you pull $1 out of your wallet or your purse, remember the American creed, e pluribus unum, out of many, one. Let us give thanks for all the values and all the institutions that allow us to maintain and develop our unique individuality while also binding us together in community for the common good. God bless you and thank you. Amen.
you're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
LOVEBB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256, or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed.
and be a blessing.